Okay, Tim and I are here at the CSA Conference in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona.
Please welcome Kerry.
Thank you, Anameta. Good morning, everybody. All right, it's day 3, right? Wednesday. Who's going home today? Yeah, who's staying? I'll see you at the pool, right? Yeah, man, Tim and I are like, we got to go to the pool. Oh, and then we get in a great conversation, right? And then we're like, okay. And then we're like, we got to get to the pool. We get another great conversation. So tonight we are at the pool, right? I don't know about you. Man, it's been a blessing being with the CSA. So we've done different conferences. I've been a financial advisor for a long time, part of like big financial planning associations and conferences and CFP symposiums. And I'll tell you what, I almost get choked up because CSA attracts a certain type of heart-driven person that amongst various professionals, amongst various industries, like this is a very unique experience. I'm just saying, right? So it's been a pleasure. And you know what I realized? So I got my CSA in like 2007. And then I got my CFP in 2009, and all these other credentials started working, right? And so somewhere along 2015, I let the CSA go, not on purpose, it just kind of happened. So I was talking to Curtis, and guess what? So you got 10 years, and you can reestablish it without a lot of trouble. So I realized that I had like 9 months left to reestablish it. So I'm going to pay them $250, send them a bunch of CE that I've done over the years, and I'm back in, you know. So I'm excited. So and I'm really excited to spend a few minutes with you guys and kind of bring you a little bit into our world. And I'd like to start with a question, okay? Have you ever had something that you wanted to know, but there was no way to find out? Think about that. Consider this. The volume of knowledge is actually doubling every 12 hours. I mean, how can that be? Like, how can it be that we have a question that we wanted to know, but there's no way to find out? I mean, you hit Google and you get like 5 million responses to your question, right? Or chat. How many of you guys are using chat? Okay. Yeah, probably about 15%, right? How could you have a question you wanted to know and no way to find out? Well, especially when knowledge is doubling every 12 hours. Look at this. In 1900, knowledge was doubling every 100 years. In 1945, it was doubling every 25 years. 1982, it's down to 12 months, and then there's your 12 hours in 2020, okay? So here's my question. Do you guys feel smarter? Okay, because I don't. Like, I think my smartphone is making me dumber, you know? I don't even know, like, my best friend's phone number, you know? Because I've never punched it in, right? It goes from one thing to the other. So what does that mean? Like how, there's a scientific reason why we feel that we don't feel smarter, and it's called knowledge velocity. The length of time it takes before half of a set of knowledge is made obsolete or superseded by new knowledge. So if we're at the whiteboard, picture it like this. On the left-hand side, there's an eraser coming behind, making things obsolete, right? And on the right-hand side, there's all these bots and techs and 25-year-olds doubling the knowledge every 12 hours. So that's called knowledge velocity. So my hope today is that there'll be a little knowledge velocity here before we leave this session, right? So what about you? You know, let's kind of interact. Oh, Justin wants to know. Okay, this is Justin, and he's like, I want to know. So let me survey the room for a second. How many are on the care side of the world, like support or giving care in the room? Okay. How many are on the financial side in the room? Okay, care outnumbers you guys a little bit. But here's the thing. So give me somebody from the care side. Raise your hands again if you like do non-medical home care. Okay, ma'am, right here. So what's something within the scope of your work, assisting families? Does anything come to mind when you look at that question? something that you wanted to know but no way to find out, or actually specifically that your families want to know but can't find out?
Want to know they can't find out. I don't know.
All right, anybody else from the home care industry? What comes to mind? Yes, ma'am?
They can't find out information.
They can't find out information. Yes, sir?
Folks always ask me, who pays for what? Is my health insurance going to pay for this? Is this something Medicare is going to cover? How
Who-
much is it going to cost?
That's right. We're cracking open the box now. Yes, ma'am.
From a family perspective, mild cognitive impairment, dementia, not diagnosed dementia, what do I have the ability to do, not do as a POA?
Yeah, so they're in the no man's land of dementia, not dementia. What do I do there, right? So let's jump over to the financial side. Somebody from the financial side, what's a question that you see your families wanting to know and no way to find out, and you can't be the hero that gives them that. You still feel like we can't find out. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, not having enough money, concerned about not having enough money. Will I have enough money to meet my needs for the rest of my life?
Concerned about not having enough money. Will I have enough money to meet my needs?
How much, my client has dementia, how many years of care are they going to need? How much intensive care are they going to need?
How many years of care are they going to need, right? Can anyone answer that question, really? Right. So all we could do is maybe contain it a bit, right? Or yes, sir?
How much it costs?
How much it costs. So how much and how long, right? So I share that experience on, that's really what we see all the time at Honor Shield. So Justin, I think he's going to calm down now, I think a little bit, right? Oh, I love that picture. All right, so here's why it matters. So Jim Carroll is a futurist, and he says there's no doubt that we live in an era of knowledge acceleration. That's why I've always suggested that what people and organizations need to concentrate on is what I call just-in-time knowledge. Getting the right knowledge at the right time for the right purpose. Yeah? That's really a really good thought, isn't it? Right knowledge, right time, right purpose. Because I don't know about you, you know what I call that? I call that wisdom, okay? So the world is drowning in information, right? I mean, think about what is in our pocket every day. But we're starving for wisdom. And so this is one way to frame that. Right knowledge, right time, right purpose. So keep that in mind as we go through this. So a little bit more on me. You can find extensive bios on me, so I'm not going to bore you with all that. Just want to say that really Honor Shield is a culmination of 15 years as what I thought was going to be a regular comprehensive financial planner. But then I had this really odd experience where I started visiting assisted livings in 2007, building those relationships and offering to meet with their families and help with what you guys know for wartime veterans as aid and attendance, right? I'll never forget this lady came in one day and she slapped down a brochure. She said, "I'm here for that A&A. I'm here for that A&A." And so what happened, I could have never predicted, is that the Nashville community of senior living and care started sending hundreds of families our way. My calendar was booked every week. And so it was just like a front row seat on this thing that we have come to call the high cost of aging, and a front row seat on all the devastation that occurs relationally and financially, and that families are going through this and that stress, right? So my goal became like, they come in really stressed, literally red in the face, Melinda. And my goal would be, okay, by the second meeting, can I get them calmed down? By the third meeting, can I calm them down, right? And so I took that. It's like if you're witnessing car wrecks, you want to go work in the safety restraint field, right? You want to go and create seatbelts. And so I took that and moved into working with families more and more coming into retirement, and what can we put in place to help them. So that's why Honor Shield really has a dual mission for the pre-crisis, we call it, and the crisis, and we'll talk about that. But that experience is really what went into when retirement goes bad, life sucks. And as an investment advisor, I begin to see it as the portfolio is vulnerable, right? So your whole career, every quarter, what do you get from your investment accounts? Every quarter you get yeah. And on that statement, it has a pie chart, right? It has some type of reporting to you. And what nobody realizes is that account that nest egg, it's missing something. It's missing some type of allocation or protection against this part of life that nobody wants to think about, that people don't want to. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, okay? I realize that you guys are here because you do think about it. And then financial, so I wrote this book, actually, you guys, not to be a boring financial book, okay? It's built around 4 stories. And I got to tell you, the happy-go-lucky couple, the high-roller couple, the widower, and the divorcee. And then there's wisdom chapters in between. So that's what that book's about. If you have anybody who's who needs to kind of be woke up about this issue, that's the book to do it. And it does it in a gracious way. And then Financial Survival for Families in the Grip of Dementia, it's an encyclopedia. It's a resource book. Really all things resource to help pay, just like it says, financial survival. So just wanted to share that with you. A little bit more about me. This is my crew. That's my dad's 92nd birthday. And so he passed away 15 months after that at 93. Had a wonderful transition into eternity. And and so this was my mom's first birthday without him, okay? And so we did a surprise party for her and had about 27 of her friends show up and surprised the heck out of her. So she's definitely my pride and joy. And so I had the chance to do this planning for my own family, obviously. And it's, And so here's what retirement is though, right? Ladies and gentlemen, you work your whole life and this is retirement. Da-na-na-na-na, come get your prize, right? And it's just going to be like this the whole time. Yeah. I'm the greatest financial planner on the planet. I can give you this in retirement, right? Well, that's kind of how the industry has to advertise it. But what one of my mentors years ago, a real guru elder law attorney, he kind of coined the phrase alternate ending, right? So it's either this or it's like bicycles in the south of France, right? And sipping wine in the Napa Valley. But I want to share with you a story out of the book, and it's a true story, and it happened to me. I was sitting on my couch one Sunday afternoon about 5 o'clock, and my mom called on my cell phone, which was unusual because mom normally texts, hey, give me a call when you get a chance. She doesn't just usually call me up. So I was a little suspect when I picked up the phone, right? And so I answered, and she goes, Kerry, Jim is next door, and Sally won't get off the toilet, and he's got a gun, he said, and he's just going to take care of it if she doesn't get off the toilet. And so you can imagine my brain goes, what? And at the same microsecond, my brain goes, I got to tell mom, you got to call the police. So this Jack and Sally that I'm talking about, so this is my mom's house. This is their house. They were our next door neighbors for 50 years. Long time, right? So I was like tripping. I'm like, what? Mom, you got to call the cops. So mom did. She called the police. They came and they were outside right there on that street. And they're trying to talk to him and get him to come out of the house. So he calls my mom back. And he says, Gene, you can call off the police now. I'm like, she's like, Jack, no, I can't. So they finally got him out and put him in an ambulance, basically. And what had happened, are you wondering, what's this get off the toilet thing? Well, let me explain that. So the reason why Sally was on the toilet so long is because she had made several trips through rehab. And every time she would go to rehab, as it was inpatient rehab, she would pick up a new habit. Her dementia that she was experiencing would attach to these things. Well, the latest one was that she would not get off the toilet for 3 or 4 hours, and bless her heart. And so what really is going on here is what? You've got a 92-year-old man, her husband, who has not brought in any what? Help, right? So the reason he didn't bring in any help, and usually I tell this story throughout a whole presentation, but I'm going to tell it the whole way right here and we're going to move on, but you'll see how it relates. He didn't bring in any help because he didn't feel like he could what? Spend the money. Right. And he didn't feel like he could spend the money because He was down to about 600,000 though, right? But all of his money, and this detail doesn't matter to you, but in my world, all of his money was in dividend paying stocks. So he was linked by handcuffs to whatever dividends these stocks would pay. And so when you depend on that, and again, this is a rabbit trail, so forgive me, but I think you'll get the point. When you depend on that, or irregardless of your setup, if you have things that are causing you to feel like if you spend money, then your income's going to go down, you're handcuffed, right? So here's another piece of the story. You guys will blow your mind. They were in my office a little over 10 years before this moment. Okay? And when they came to my office, what do you think we offered them? A plan, right? You might have said, your brain probably went, long-term care insurance. Well, maybe that was part of it, right? But it was more of a plan, right? And so when you do what we do, our job is to think about someone's future, all the possible things that can happen. How many of you guys have children, right? So do you remember the day you sent your kids off to school the first time? What did you do? You thought about all the possible things that could happen. Does little Johnny have his lunch? Does he, now my 14-year-old, I'm just worried did he take a shower, It's so if you're a parent, you're always thinking ahead. You're always thinking, how can I prepare the way? And that's how elder care planning is. And so presented the options to him that day. Hey, here's a couple different ways you can do it. The point is that one day, if one of you needs care, you've got there's a plan. What block of money are we going to access, right, Michael? What are we going to turn on? There's something psychological that happens in a family when they have a plan in place and they know what they're going to do. And then when that moment happens, there's not that panic, okay? So I'll move on, but here's what happened in that story. He said no that day. He's like, hey, Kerry, I got it, And by the way, this guy was the jokester. Like, he always had a joke. This is the guy that had a gun on his wife a few minutes ago, right? Okay, are you with me here? So he was like American greeting card guy. He was the guy who went in the drugstores and did the cards in the drugstore. He was a Gideon, all these things. You would have never pictured it. But what happened is he allowed himself to get in this situation where he was overwhelmed and he self-destructed. And what ended up happening is he went for a psych eval, and when who picked him up from that hospital? Who do you think? There's a clue right here. The sheriff's department picks him up from the hospital and takes him to jail. He went to jail, okay? Of course, now we've got her at home by herself. He had slapped her too, okay? And threatened with the gun. And so she's at home, so mom and them rally. And my mom's 88, right? And this happened a few years ago. She's probably like 82. So anyways, long story short, because I got to get going. But what happened is that they brought some care in for her, and then it wasn't that much longer till they moved her to assisted living, memory care, okay? Now what does that cost these days? 8, 7, yeah. Right? So the court system treated him really good, actually. They processed, hey, here's the deal. The guy's got this, blah, blah, blah. They released him. He went to a hotel because he couldn't come home while she was there. So once she was gone to assisted living, he was able to come back home. Then mom and them got some help for him. So what is he starting to do? Spend money, right? He's starting to spend money anyway, right? So 7 going here, he's at the house, then he can't stay there. They fire sell the house, more lost money. He moves into assisted living with her, and about 6 months later, got aggressive again. They said, hey, you can't stay here. So guess how this ended? He's in one assisted living memory care, she's in another. What does that cost? Okay? So it's kind of a pay me now or pay me later thing, right? Can we apply that a little bit? So that is their story. And that's the reason why we kind of have a mantra at Honor Shield that goes like this. It's really complex. Care requires funds, right? Care requires funds. So this is a little deeper dive on the left here of the makeup of, guess who? CSAs, right? But really, one way or the other, it kind of falls in these two camps. And I'll tell you, November of 2023, here's another little piece of information for you. Kaiser came out in November of last year and said only 3 to 4% of 50-year-olds, 50 and older folks are currently paying for any type of long-term care insurance, right? While they said around 70%, we've all heard that stat, right? Around 70% of folks are likely to need care. So I don't know about you, but I call that a disconnect. Like, I need Justin to pop back up here. What? 3% have some coverage and 70% are going to need care. You guys, this is what has like kept me up at night for years. I'm like, we got to solve this disconnect somehow. This longevity care journey. So on the left here, let's dig in a little bit more. We've got their functionality continuum here is a fancy way to say that. And then we got the financial on the bottom. And I know this is kind of small, but here's the point. Healthy, vigorous senior here, rest in peace over here. I'm selling tickets after this talk for a express train from healthy, vigorous to rest in peace. You don't have to do the stuff in the middle. How's that? That's all we're here for. Good night. Thank you. Right. No, I wish that was the case, right? If I had that ticket, would you buy one? Yeah. Heck yeah. My 97-year-old grandmother had that ticket. And it was amazing to watch her journey. And she never needed any care. But that's the case. But for most of us, though, we're going to experience some chronic health problems. We're going to start that little journey of in and out like Sally did, having some rehab, coming back home. Because what is rehab? It's restorative care, right? What is Medicare? And who's paying for all that rehab and the hospitalization, right? What entity pays for that? Medicare, right. Or unless you have private insurance or things like that, right? And so what happens is do you think people get a little spoiled? Like, I don't like it personally when people put down Medicare. Like, they have no idea the benefits they're getting. Is that fair? You guys agree? And so people are kind of lulled into a kind of a false sense of security, I think, because Medicare is the big payer here. Then, of course, when we get down to, and again, I'm preaching to the choir, you get down to needing some type of home care, AL, MC, IL, then we have this little PP word, private pay, right? little private pay, And so, in case somebody doesn't get that, I actually changed it over here. Use your own money, right? So I'm usually doing this for the public, right? Not you guys. And so it just, you know the expense there, and it's just, wow. So that's our person in care's journey. A lot of times we've got one spouse on one spot and one spouse on the other, right? Yeah. How many times have you seen, isn't it incredibly beautiful when you see one has the cognitive decline and the other spouse has the physical decline? And they're like this cool little team, I saw that so many times, And then when one of them passes, the team is broken apart, right? And then all breaks loose. And so then the other people at the table, we call the adult kids, right? You guys do that? The family, yeah. So we have sons and daughters in here that many of you have already experienced that, right? So see if you agree. We got worry and frustration. We got the sandwich generation, time allocation, travel, anxiety, what to do about the move, very stressed, depression, exhaustion, death, mourning. And so when the person passes away, you think it's over, but it's not, right? Because all of that has been shoved down by the family members, all that, and nobody's grieved yet, right? So that's why I'm sure somewhere in the CSA world, there's probably specialists just about grieving. And if there's therapists in here today, probably. And so you've got the first piece on top of this piece. Now we add, you see, it's just stacking up, right? We add this to it. The impact of aging on a retirement portfolio. So there's our pie chart, right? You guys get that every quarter in your statements and stuff. And so what's happening, though, I alluded to it earlier, inside of that portfolio, and we're just laying some groundwork here, you guys. Inside of that portfolio, I've witnessed it myself, is one of these, okay? We call it the ticking time bomb. And what that leads to is a lot of additional heartache that's unnecessary. Okay, so let's do a little review. The biggest threat to retirement is not, as most people think, taxes, inflation, and market loss. Okay? Oh, wait a minute, Kerry. What could be worse than taxes, inflation, and market loss? Are you kidding me? Well, it's aging, right? And really, I mean the high cost of aging, and they're unprepared. But really, what's the culprit? This right here. Let me tell you, that is a force to be reckoned with, okay? Just, if denial. And so that's the biggest thing that so remember, you're heart-driven, right? Or you wouldn't be here. If you weren't heart-driven, you wouldn't be here. But denials is a tough enemy. It really is. So even with all the stats, so let me break a little bit something down here for you. So on the left here, we heard one financial advisor refer to this as the finish line, okay? So we were like, what? But I'm going to use it, right? So the guy said, retirement's the finish line. And a lot of people, they live that way. They work that way. They're like, oh, man, I'm finally getting to retire. And I think that's changing some. But they get there, and the financial advisor and everybody is hoping that their nest egg could do this during their retirement, right? Yeah, I love that. But what really, the financial advisor is sitting there hoping like, oh man, I just hope they can do this, right? But the reality is, in today's world, if they're somewhere in between these two lines, that's a big win, right? But what's missing out of that portfolio planning? What's defective inside that portfolio? Guess what nobody's accounting for? They're not accounting for the combined effect of forces that begin to act upon this nest egg all at one time. Income, the market, the taxes, and then you have this thing that's a wonderful thing, but it's a costly thing. And that moment occurs when they need care, right? And all of a sudden, every one of those lines goes bam. Yeah? So let me take you just a little deeper, if I may. This is the most complex moment of the whole talk, okay? So hang with me for a minute, and let's really dig into this. So up top here, you have that market loss or gain. You have normal income, care cost, and don't forget taxes. And I say taxes because most of this money is coming out of accounts where most Americans have saved their money, and that's called what? It's 3 letters. IRA, right. Ever since 1980, huge shift. I won't go into that. That's another talk. But a lot of times they have to do withholding, even if there's a little compensation on the tax return for any tax preparers in the audience. I get that, right? But still, the impact on that portfolio when you start yanking all this money out at once is as the following goes. 800 grand. First year, the market's down 10%. Okay, we can live with that. We have our income of $32,000. We have our care cost of $88,000. A few taxes. And all of a sudden now, year one, we're down to $576. So we have a married couple here. And we have one person in care, $88,000. Is everybody okay with the 88? Am I exaggerating that?
That's average.
Okay, right, thank you. All right, year two, what's going to happen to the market? That's the big question, right? So I won't go off on this, but really what just popped in my head is a lot of folks are slave to what the market does. Okay, it doesn't mean don't use the market, doesn't mean get out of it, but some separation can occur there. So year two, what happens? And it goes like this. Market's down 10% again, but we have our income, our care costs, and our taxes come out. Down to 374. Surely the market's going to go up the next year. Right? It does. 15% up the next year. Got our care costs. So does income, care costs, and taxes ever stop? Until you pass away, right? But look what we're down to, you guys. That's a 286, just in case you can't see it in the back. That's $286,000. So you just witnessed in 3 years, $800,000 with, unfortunately, all due respect to my colleagues, with the financial advisor saying, you're good, you got enough money, you can do this, right? Because the financial advisor's not been trained on what to do. They've not been trained in longevity planning. All of a sudden, 800 goes down to 286 in only 3 years. In only 3 years. And that's just one spouse. So what do you think the wife here, we'll throw the guy under the bus, okay, ladies? The guy's the one getting care here. What do you think the wife is feeling like while all this is going on? She's not stupid. She sees what's going on. And you think she's conflicted and torn? She loves her husband. She'll sacrifice her left arm for him probably, you know? I mean, I have a wife right now who I met with literally as she walks out of the memory care unit, having just moved her husband in. She was 58. He was like, what was he? She's 53. He was 57. Yeah. Louis body. Okay. And I'm in this incredible moment where she literally was just walked out of the unit the day he moved in, and we went to the private dining room in the AL and sat down and talked. And my point is that they have a beautiful 5-acre farm, Williamson County outside of Nashville. She gave no thought to whatever it took to take care of him. That's my point. But guess what? My job is to worry about her too. Okay? My job is to say, okay, how do we navigate this to get him taken care of, and also what can we preserve for her? And so that's the cool part of what we get to do, is bring these type of, you'll see in a minute, right? So back to this question, it'd be nice if we had a Swami, but here's the thing. Let's think about your clients for a minute. Let's think about this question and back to your clients, okay? So what if your clients think they can't pay for your services that have been recommended? Well, that never happens. Yeah? You know, you home care people, you come in, you do the assessment, you recommend 30 hours, and then they go to squirreling, right? Like, all of a sudden now, they're looking at each other going, okay, you're going to come on Tuesdays? Or, you know, it's like, it happens, right? What if they run out of money because they didn't know how to use their resources effectively? What if they use all their money on one spouse and leave the other spouse impoverished, like we just said? What if nothing is left to pay for the legacy they've dreamed of, you guys, and leaving the people and the causes they love? You know, and I've had clients walk in on the front end of retirement and say, Kerry, we want to spend the last dollar the day we die, you know. I'm like, okay, we can manage it. No, that's really what they do. But the overwhelming majority want to leave something for their kids. It's an honorable thing for them to do, you know, and so that's another just real big stressor for them. So what if they don't know about modern options designed to cover the cost of care? Again, that's why Honor Shield is here. People have no idea, they don't know what they don't know. And you guys actually, I just want to be very frank with you, you hear sound bites a lot, okay? The world is full of sound bites, and even wherever I go, I hear little bits and pieces of things that are incomplete. Well, those sound bites get taken and then repeated as more than a sound bite. But here's my question to you. What if we could turn uncertainty into certainty? Okay? Justin likes that. Okay? He's like, whoa, what? Are you kidding me? Well, let's see. What can we do here? What can we do here? Let's see. What if growth accounts with long-term care coverage were available to all regardless of health conditions? No one declined. What if tax-free care coverage for healthy spouses if needed, and tax-free inheritance for heirs if not was available? Tax-free benefits. See that back to our healthy spouse advocacy, okay? Happens all the time. What if guaranteed income as long as a person's getting care is alive, and that guaranteed income was engineered to fill that care funding gap, the difference between their income and their care costs? And all of a sudden, you remember our two questions earlier? Well, how long is this going to last, and how much is it going to cost? What if we could close the gap on one of those questions and have something that lasted as long as they lived? What if they could leverage current assets to create care funding accounts worth up to 4 times their current value? 4 times, and this is on the pre-crisis side. What if they could leverage current tax laws to convert taxable earnings into tax-free care funds? So leveraging current assets. There's so much that folks aren't aware of. What if we could coordinate existing LTC life and annuity policies with other assets? See, this is a specialist role, you guys, okay? How many of you would want your general practitioner to operate on your heart? The guy's a doctor. He's got a license, right?
So does a vet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. And they even more, they know more. Vets are really smart. So let's have them operate. Yeah. So this idea of coordinating existing assets is a huge part of care funding planning, okay? What if tech could predict your client's lifespan and, more importantly, their latter years requiring care? So we call that the care span, okay?
Well, it has arrived, actually, thanks to the intersection of aging science and facial analytics, and the team put together by Dr. Jay Olshansky, a leading expert in longevity. And you'll see here they've featured in Wall Street Journal, the Barron's, Journal of American Medical Association, and it's just really, really cool. They ask about 16 different lifestyle questions, some markers like sleep and blood sugar, a few biological things, and then we upload a picture of the person. I mean, facial analytics is crazy what they can tell by looking at her face. And so here you have the end result of that as a report where we can get an idea of lifespan, in what we call health span and care span. So on the screen here in front of you, you see on the top left of that first line, 83. So this is an 83-year-old male on the top and his 76-year-old wife on the bottom. So we do these on people of all ages, okay, 40, 50, 60, it doesn't matter. But in this example, you know, this is kind of your audience a lot of times, and you can see that that full bar there from 83, 85, 87, 89, they've given him a life expectancy around 92. Okay. Now, the difference between the blue and the red you see up there is the blue is his health span, the red is his care span. So, because of the questions that are asked, they have a predictive tool now, a way to forecast how long somebody would be in care. All right. So jumping down to the bottom, you can see that she's 76 and she has a lifespan of almost about 93. So she would have, you can see all the way up to 85.7 as a health span. And then they're predicting 7.3 years of care. So the last piece here I want to talk about real quick is that yellow bar, because for a married couple especially, her getting an idea of that survival gap. How long is she going to be living without him? And potentially, you know, it could go a little longer, it could go less, but this is just one analytical tool that gives somebody more information than they currently have. So, you know, when they have the death of a spouse, you lose one Social Security, taxes change, so different things. And so it's really important for her to be able to see that and start thinking about that and plan for it. All right.
So what's the point here? The point is that this is simply another piece of data that we have that's objective, okay, that's scientific. So we can go to a family, whether it's on the younger side of we're pre-crisis or whether we're on the crisis side and they're already in care, and at least it adds another piece of information. And you remember that big red thing that popped up earlier that was one of our greatest adversaries is what? It starts with a D? Denial, right? So hopefully this can help crack that. But as a planner, any type of objective information we can get that can go into that thinking process, it's what we want. So here we are, care requires funds. So what if we could change that to a care funding plan? If care requires funds and there's this big disconnect with 3% of people having protection and 70% going to need it, I'll just tell you, we feel like everybody needs a care funding plan, okay? A care funding analysis offers a distinct advantage helping your current and potential clients create a care funding plan through our proprietary longevity care allocation planning system, okay? That sounds complex, but guess what? We make it simple. We evaluate their needs, we discover their resources, we find solutions, and we create a customized plan. Okay? That takes all of these things you've heard me talk about today and considers all these different options. In a care funding plan, you've got everything from a Medicaid consult if they need it, a VA consult if they need it as part of that planning, an examination of all their resources. What do they currently have? Our 5 loaves and 2 fishes, right? What can we do out of that basket with what they currently have? And are there solutions like you saw alluded to on those orange slides earlier? Are there solutions that can be considered to add to that plan to increase confidence and remove some unknowns? Okay? So that is it, you guys. This is not a long going over time presentation. We just wanted to crack that open for you. And we're really excited about LifePath Predictor because, again, it really takes about, 6-7 minutes, Tim, you think? To really put somebody's data in, upload a picture. So you guys can go to lifepathpredictor.com. Don't worry about writing. We're going to email you and give you a chance. If you guys want to hop on and schedule a 15-minute session, we can do that for you. It's a little scary at first. Like, did any of you have that moment of reaction in your mind? Be honest with me. Like, oh, I don't know if I'd want to know my life. What is it? Yeah? It felt a little scary to me too. But you know what? What I found out is after I did it, like mine said, I'm 58, right? Mine said 86.4, but it said like 3-point-something years of care span. But instantly, you guys, almost very quickly in me, it became kind of like a competitive thing. Like, okay, all right. You know, it was actually very motivational, okay? Now, it doesn't hurt that I'm 58 and I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old, okay? But I just want you to know, like, we can own those feelings and that process of emotions that you go through and not be scared of it. Because after all, it's a piece of science and it's one viewpoint, right? But let me tell you, if you're a planner and you've got a society that is in denial and only embracing solutions at a super, super low rate, anything that can say, okay, here's your likelihood, anything that let's do this, anything that can give that wife more power to get her husband to wake up a little bit, is that okay, guys? I'm sorry. No offense, no offense. Then it's a good thing, right? So I hope this was helpful to you. God bless you. Have a great trip home. Thank you.